Top 10 Guantanamo Bay's darkest secrets exposed. Imagine a place where the law bends, where shadows conceal unspeakable acts, and where hope itself goes to die. Welcome to Guantanamo Bay. Guantanamo Bay, established in the wake of 9/11, was meant to be a symbol of American resolve. Instead, it became a monument to moral compromise. For over 2 decades, this detention camp has been shrouded in secrecy and mired in controversy, a place where the line between justice and vengeance blurs into nothingness. What truly happened behind those barbed wire fences? Extraordinary rendition, a sanitized term for a chilling practice. Suspects were snatched from foreign lands, often without legal process, and spirited away to Guantanamo. These weren't extraditions, they were abductions, carried out in the dead of night. Secret flights crisscrossed the globe, delivering their human cargo to a legal black hole. The destinations remained undisclosed, the detainees vanished from the world, leaving behind only whispers and unanswered questions. Where did these flights originate, and who authorized them? Enhanced interrogation techniques, a euphemism for torture. Waterboarding, sleep deprivation, stress positions, sensory overload, these were the tools of the trade. Waterboarding simulated drowning, pushing detainees to the brink of death. Sleep deprivation stretched for days, shattering their minds and breaking their will. Stress positions contorted their bodies into agonizing shapes, while sensory overload bombarded them with noise and light. Was this the price of security, or a descent into barbarity? Years turned into decades, and still, no charges were filed, no trials were held. Detainees languished in legal limbo, trapped in a system that seemed designed to break them. This indefinite detention without trial is a blatant violation of due process, a cornerstone of Western justice. How can a nation claim to uphold the rule of law while denying it to others? International criticism mounted, but the gates of Guantanamo remained firmly shut. Were these detainees too dangerous to release, or too inconvenient to acknowledge? The harsh conditions and prolonged isolation took a devastating toll on the detainees' mental health. Depression, PTSD, and suicidal tendencies became rampant. The human mind can only endure so much. Years of confinement, uncertainty, and abuse left deep scars, invisible to the eye, but agonizingly real. Guantanamo became a breeding ground for psychological trauma, a place where hope withered and despair flourished. What is the long-term cost of this psychological warfare? Efforts were made to suppress detainees' accounts of their experiences, limiting transparency and hindering independent investigations. The truth was a dangerous commodity. Censorship became the norm, preventing the outside world from learning the full extent of what was happening inside Guantanamo. Were they hiding something? Independent investigations were stonewalled. Access was restricted, and the voices of the detainees were silenced. What were they so afraid of revealing? Reports suggest that detainees have not always received adequate medical care, with allegations of delayed treatment and insufficient resources. Their health was a low priority. Basic medical needs were often neglected, treatment was delayed, and resources were stretched thin. Was this deliberate neglect, or simply a consequence of the system? The lack of adequate medical care exacerbated existing health problems and contributed to the overall suffering of the detainees. How many lives were needlessly lost or damaged? When detainees engaged in hunger strikes to protest their detention, they were subjected to forced feeding, a practice condemned by many human rights organizations. Hunger strikes were a desperate act of defiance, a last resort for those who had lost all hope. But the authorities responded with force, violating their bodily autonomy. Forced feeding is a brutal and degrading practice, a violation of medical ethics and human dignity. Was this a necessary measure to preserve life, or a form of torture in itself? Prolonged solitary confinement is a common practice at Guantanamo, exacerbating mental health issues and considered a form of psychological torture. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, and months into years, spent in complete isolation. The human mind is not designed for such prolonged sensory deprivation. Solitary confinement can lead to hallucinations, paranoia, and a complete breakdown of mental function. Was this a deliberate attempt to break the detainees' spirits? The legal basis for detaining individuals at Guantanamo has been repeatedly challenged, with critics arguing that it operates outside the bounds of international law. Guantanamo exists in a legal grey area, a place where the rules are unclear and the rights of detainees are often ignored. Is this a necessary exception or a dangerous precedent? The legal justification for Guantanamo has been questioned by legal scholars, human rights organizations, and international bodies. Is it truly above the law? The operation of Guantanamo Bay is incredibly expensive, costing taxpayers millions of dollars per detainee per year, raising questions about its cost-effectiveness and justification. The financial burden of Guantanamo is staggering, diverting resources from other critical areas. Is this a worthwhile investment or a colossal waste of taxpayer money? The high cost of Guantanamo raises serious questions about its long-term sustainability and its overall value. Is it worth the price, both financially and morally? The story of Guantanamo Bay is a complex and disturbing one, filled with ethical dilemmas, legal challenges, and human suffering. The need for accountability and transparency is paramount. The long-term impact on the detainees and the US's reputation is undeniable. Guantanamo has become a symbol of injustice and a stain on America's moral standing. The questions surrounding Guantanamo remain unanswered. The secrets continue to linger, and the legacy of this dark chapter in American history will continue to haunt us for years to come. What will you do with this knowledge? Will you stand idly by, or will you demand justice and accountability? The choice is yours. Call to action. Dive deeper into the truth. Research the ongoing legal battles, support organizations fighting for human rights at Guantanamo, and demand transparency from your elected officials. Share this video to expose these dark secrets and spark a global conversation. Subscribe for more investigative documentaries that challenge the status quo and uncover hidden truths. The time for silence is over.